We installed the library, now we need to link it. For this, I'll start our project in Xcode. You can simply go to the iOS folder in your Windows Explorer or Mac Finder and double click on this Xcode proj file here. Now in Xcode, for every library that touches native device features, there are at least 2 steps you always need to do, and further steps can always be taken from the documentation of that library. The first one is to right-click on the libraries folder here on the left panel. If you don't see that, click that button here on the top right to add it or remove it. So click on libraries and then click on add files to, and there's your project name. Now in the opening window, which should automatically be navigated into your project, click on node modules, which is where all your dependencies are stored. And there simply pick the one you just installed, React Native Vector Icons. In there, you typically always have something like an iOS folder, or anywhere else you have an Xcode project. So ending with .xcode proj, this one in this case. Could be in an iOS subfolder, in this case it's in the root folder. Simply click add to add this to your libraries. The next step is to click on your project itself here on the top of the left panel. And then click on build phases here in the middle. On build phases, click on link binary with libraries and there on the plus icon at the end of the list. You may now simply search for some words that occurs in your library name, like in this one, search for vector, and you should find a lib rn for React Native, in this case vector icons, whatever your library is named. Click add. And that's it. These are the core steps you need to do in every iOS project. And then, as I mentioned, the specific library you're using might require some additional steps. In this case here, we also need to drag the font we want to use from node modules and the library folder into our Xcode project and then added the info plist, which is like an asset list or an information list for our iOS app containing some important information this app needs for running correctly. By the way, I use the first manual approach. You can use Cocoa pods. I'm not going to dive into this here in this course. I'm not using them. I also found them to sometimes behave a bit buggy when using them with React Native. So let's do these 2 steps now. For that, I'll first bring up the Finder. And in the Finder, I'll go into Node Modules in my project folder, search for the package React Native Vector Icons. And then just because we need to do it in this package, we are instructed to copy the fonts folder or just the one we want into our Xcode project. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go into the fonts folder and I want to use the Ionicons. So I'm going to drag the ionicons.ttf file into my project just here at the top. And then here, make sure to check your project name under add to targets. If you copied the whole folder, make sure that you check create groups. Otherwise, this setting here is correct. So click finish. Now we added this. And now we need to add our info plist. And that can all be found on the official documentation. And there you can simply right click on information property list, add a row, and simply type fonts provided by application. It should autocomplete. That's an array which you can expand. And then simply add your font you want to use. So the file name you just added. In my case, it's ionicons.ttf. And that's it. With that, you got your Xcode project prepared. You're now prepared to use these icons. Let me in the next lecture show you how you do the same for Android Studio and for Android apps.